Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we're going to take a look at what the Arachnids from Starship Troopers really are. Within the vast catalog of space monsters gifted to us by the sci-fi and horror cinema of the 90s, there is one species that, without a doubt, left an indelible mark on the minds of millions of fans: the Arachnids. These creatures, which look like nightmare insects scaled up to colossal proportions, impress not only with their sheer brutality and unrestrained ferocity, but also with the complexity of their inner world and the meticulously organized hierarchy that sustains them. They are an alien swarm that, to this day, reigns as one of the most fearsome and charismatic extraterrestrial enemies ever imagined by the human mind. And precisely for that reason, today we're going to dive deep into the throbbing heart of this intergalactic hive to break down their origins, evolutionary development, and the rich mythology that supports them within the brutal universe of Starship Troopers. Later on, we'll open the door to each of their castes, explore their most distinctive physical traits, and discover why each variant is so lethal in its own way, like pieces of a biological machine designed to conquer and annihilate without mercy. These dreaded invaders, popularly known as bugs, are part of a surprisingly advanced alien civilization, capable of thriving and expanding across entire galaxies, evading the watch and control of the Citizen Federation. What at first was believed to be an irrational plague, mindless and uncontrollable, turned out to be a species shaped by millennia of evolution to resist, adapt, and above all, consume. As revealed by one of the military biologists in the saga, their true strategy does not rely on simple suicidal attacks, but on an almost organic form of expansion, launching spores into the vacuum of space, colonizing fertile planets, and ensuring the survival of the species through a hierarchical ecosystem perfectly synchronized with a collective instinct that borders on the supernatural. Over time, the long and bloody war between humans and bugs made it clear that nothing in this hive happens by chance. Behind every ambush, behind every ravenous swarm, there is a caste system as precise as it is ruthless. Among their ranks are the enigmatic brain bugs and the near-mythical figure of the god bug, entities with psychic abilities capable of controlling and directing the movements of millions of creatures at once, turning chaos into a symphony of destruction. The story of how humanity stumbled upon these beings is, at the same time, a tale of arrogance and a tragedy written in blood and fire. The Federation, driven by its insatiable ambition to expand its galactic influence, ventured too close to Arachnid territory. Although the authorities tried to enforce quarantine zones and establish exclusion areas, the colonizing hunger of clandestine and dissenting groups ultimately ignored every warning, founding makeshift settlements in territories infested with creatures for whom mercy is an alien concept. The result was as brutal as it was inevitable. The Arachnids mercilessly wiped out every illegal colony, leaving behind ghost towns, scorched landscapes, and a trail of corpses that would soon ignite the spark of revenge. One of these attacks culminated in the infamous massacre of the John Smith colony, an event that unleashed the Federation's fury. The bugs, far from being intimidated, responded by launching a rain of meteors loaded with biological material that impacted directly on Buenos Aires, Argentina. That offensive, devastating in every sense, marked the point of no return. The tense frontier turned into all-out war, the first of many desperate battles for the survival of our species. The first image humans had of this alien nightmare was that of the warrior bugs, the most numerous and recognizable warrior caste. Their physique, vaguely similar to a twisted combination of spider and praying mantis, is multiplied in ferocity, natural armor, and deadly dimensions. It is believed that these colossal warriors originally emerged on the planets of the Clendathu system, a cluster of worlds turned into authentic incubation nests. For centuries, These bugs coexisted without major conflict, until human greed crossed lines that should never have been violated. The destruction of Buenos Aires lit the spark for an immediate military response. However, the Federation, blinded by its own pride and propaganda, completely underestimated the collective intelligence of the hive. The disaster was as humiliating as it was tragic. The first offensive launched against Clendathu resulted in the annihilation of over 300,000 soldiers, proving that human arrogance was futile against a biology designed for war. But who really forms the core of this insectoid army that brought the Federation to its knees? Under the mental command of the brain bugs and the god bug, there is a diversity of specialized units, each conceived as a vital organ within the colossal organism that is the swarm. Warrior bugs, gigantic quadrupeds nearly 3 meters tall, with dark bodies streaked with yellow bands. Their jaws are living guillotines, capable of pulverizing rock, metal, or flesh in seconds. They wield front blades designed exclusively for mutilation, and even if they lose limbs, they continue to fight with a ferocity that defies all logic. Hoppers, the aerial cavalry of the swarm. With their membranous wings, they patrol the skies, dive at dizzying speeds, and tear off heads and limbs before vanishing into the clouds like flying specters. Their lighter exoskeleton makes them more vulnerable, but their speed and maneuverability more than compensate for any structural weakness. Tankers, true living tanks, comparable in size to warrior bugs, but even more robust. Designed as biological battering rams, they destroy fortifications and armored vehicles as if they were made of paper. They are hard to stop, except with heavy weaponry and demolition tactics. Plasma bugs, the long-range artillery, able to spit superheated plasma streams from a specialized nozzle on their heads. They pulverize fortifications, shoot down ships, and disintegrate entire columns of troops. They can burrow and move underground, striking where no one expects. Their carapace is so thick that only high-powered explosives can penetrate it. Brain bugs, control bugs, god bug, and the queen, the masterminds that coordinate, decide, and command. These beings, endowed with superior intelligence and telepathic capabilities, shape a hive that, without them, would be a mindless mass of flesh. Thanks to their guidance, the swarm becomes an almost invincible military force, capable of learning from every defeat and perfecting its tactics for the next ambush. Thus, every battle against the Arachnids is an uneven duel between the arrogance of our species and the cold, calculated, and devastating efficiency of a swarm that knows no surrender. From their serrated claws to their armored exoskeletons, each bug is designed to fight to its last breath, ravaging without fear or mercy. So join me, because here on this channel, we're going to keep diving into every corner of this nightmare ecosystem. Today, we've only opened the door, but what lies beyond is an army so vast and lethal that not even the Citizen Federation could afford to underestimate it without paying a devastating price. Get ready to discover that. In the war against the bugs, the real question was never whether we would win, but how much we'd be willing to sacrifice to survive. Within the Arachnid army, the plasma bugs are, without a doubt, one of its most feared and spectacular weapons. Imagine a living fortress, an organic anti-aircraft battery, designed to spit plasma blasts so powerful they can pulverize entire fleets without ever leaving the ground. These titans, true pieces of biological artillery, form the most impenetrable defensive wall of any world under the bug's yoke. Wherever a plasma bug rises, the very surface becomes a living cannon, pointing skyward like a relentless guardian. Their mere presence is impossible to ignore. They have a gigantic bulbous, almost grotesque abdomen that swells like a magma boiler about to erupt. Once they reach the proper internal pressure, they release incandescent plasma streams with orbital precision, capable of shooting down satellites, altering asteroid trajectories or turning Federation battleships into clouds of debris glowing like falling stars. But their role is not limited to destruction. It is suspected they also function as living launch platforms, expelling capsules filled with spores, embryos, or eggs, seeding new planets, or unleashing apocalyptic reprisals that annihilate entire ecosystems in the blink of an eye. With a size even greater than the imposing tankers, seeing one of these colossi on the battlefield is to witness the pinnacle of the hive's biological engineering, a symphony of fire and viscera in perfect synchrony. But if we're talking about manipulation and mind control, the control bugs are the most chilling manifestation of the hive mind. At first glance, they may seem harmless, small, fragile, about the size of a human hand, almost insignificant. Yet behind their appearance hides one of the most sinister instruments of domination. These parasites, also known as possession bugs, infiltrate human bodies through cavities like the mouth or even open wounds. Once inside, they crawl up the spinal cord until they lodge at the base of the skull, where they fuse with the nervous system, turning the victim into a perfect puppet, completely subject to the will of a brain bug. On the outside, the person can continue acting seemingly normally for days, even weeks. However, internally, the control bug slowly drains their vitality, alters every thought, rewrites memories, and erases free will until only an empty shell remains. When there is nothing left to exploit, the parasite abandons the corpse, crawling back into the darkness in search of its next host, thus restarting this macabre cycle of possession. Although they are not built for open combat, their stealth and ability to hide in the shadows make them a nightmare for any reconnaissance or extermination squad. A single infiltration is enough for an entire squad to fall under the hive's influence. At the very top of this dark pyramid of control stand the brain bugs, the grand strategists, the masterminds who sustain and orchestrate every swarm offensive. These bulbous, gelatinous masses, covered in damp folds, are essentially the living brains of the hive. Although they lack conventional defensive abilities, they possess an equally terrifying biological arsenal. Their ultrasonic shriek can rupture blood vessels inside the human skull, causing lethal hemorrhages within seconds. They also release pheromones that induce panic or paralysis in their prey, rendering even the most disciplined soldiers useless. Their appearance is as grotesque as it is hypnotic. They resemble colossal worms, riddled with eyes and translucent folds that pulse in sync with their viscous breathing. Their most infamous feature is their proboscis, a sort of retractable stinger they use to pierce skulls and devour human brains, extracting secrets, memories, and military strategies directly from the source. This is how they deciphered Federation codes, tactics, and weaknesses, transforming the war into a biological chess game where every human defeat fed the hive's intelligence. In the first film, one of these beings is revealed as the key piece behind the conflict, the hidden mind orchestrating ambushes, and a brutal reminder that underestimating the bugs always comes at a cost. Brain bugs not only control entire swarms, but can communicate with each other through telepathic pulses, ensuring that every cell of this hive mind operates like a perfectly tuned symphony of destruction. But no swarm would be complete without its matriarch, the queen bug, the great mother that births every new generation of horrors. This biological sovereign is the living factory of the hive, a relentless egg-laying machine whose nesting chamber is never empty. Her colossal body combines traits from multiple castes: a head crowned with chitinous plates, jaws as jagged as those of the warrior bugs, massive hind limbs to support her enormous weight, and small front appendages to manipulate prey, eggs, or even tend to minor wounds. The queen is not just a passive incubator. She possesses an instinctive cunning that allows her to coordinate defenses, delegate tasks, and redirect entire troops to protect her nest. Dozens of warriors, workers, and guards watch over every tunnel and underground chamber, forming a living wall that turns any incursion attempt into a certain massacre. Despite years of war, the Federation still hasn't confirmed whether there is a single supreme queen or multiple matriarchs scattered like nightmare seeds across unexplored corners of the universe. On the ground, other variants complete the devastation. The plasma granator bugs, massive beasts that look like a cross between giant beetles and scorpions, are designed for short and mid-range assaults. Unlike the orbital artillery plasma bugs, these project short-range plasma blasts to blow up vehicles, barricades, and infantry positions, reducing bunkers to smoldering puddles. Alongside them, the bombarder bugs or psycases add a suicidal twist to the offensive. They are living capsules swollen with biological explosive compounds. They open like flowers of death upon reaching their target, releasing an explosion that wipes out entire patrols, topples walls, and sows panic among enemy lines. Every bombarder that detonates is a reminder that for the bugs, self-immolation is just another evolutionary tactic. And at the pinnacle of this shared nightmare stands the legend of the god bug, known by its ritual name Vimiko-Idol. This colossal entity, half organism, half living mountain, remains semi-buried on Omi, the hive's primordial planet. Its tentacles, as thick as tree trunks, emerge from the ground to trap, crush, or drag down any form of life that dares enter its lethal radius. It can manipulate tectonic plates, open fissures beneath entire squads, and devour them in the darkness. And as if its physical power weren't enough, its mind extends through possessed bodies, sending orders to brain bugs and control bugs galaxies away. Its partially exposed head resembles a monstrous version of a brain bug, adorned with sensory tentacles capable of piercing skulls, devouring memories, and absorbing information. Although the Federation claims to have eliminated this aberration in the third installment, whispers of increasingly organized swarms prove that the hive always regenerates. As long as one queen lays eggs and one brain bug steals memories, the threat will never die. Surrounding it, lesser castes like the scorpion bugs, close relatives of the plasma bugs, or the tireless worker bugs, which dig tunnels and keep the underground infrastructure alive, complete this bestiary of horrors that makes every encounter with the Arachnids a fight for mere existence. Each creature is a cell within a colossal body, designed to expand, devour, and endure, and we humans are just another resource to conquer, study, and consume. The war against the bugs is not just a military battle. It is a biological warning that life, when it evolves without restraint or morality, can give birth to a nightmare with no end.